And right at the beginning, some students are talking about their social lives and relationships among the students at school, and on the other side of the room, there's a young man who introduces himself as Seo Takuya, a boy whom many judge to be one of those typical otaku. But contrary to what many think, Takuya says he likes a rather peculiar anime. In fact, he's a fan of an anime made exclusively for girls, something that makes him seem even more bizarre. At that moment, Takuya starts smiling like a happy fool, as if remembering that he got the limited edition Kiramon eraser. After all, he was lucky enough to be one of the chosen few to receive one. And when talking more about the anime itself, Takuya says it's called Kiririn Pet Monster, and it airs at 10 a.m. on Sundays, and although the anime's characters are cute, the story is still pretty heavy. Furthermore, Takuya says this anime used to be more popular when it first came out, but these days it doesn't get as much attention as it used to. Meanwhile, as he gets lost in his own daydreams, another student takes his eraser, saying she'll give it back to him soon. But Takuya insists that she give the eraser back, saying that it's very special to him. After all, it's not just a simple eraser like she thinks. As they talk, Takuya introduces the young woman standing in front of him to Kotoko, a somewhat popular girl who isn't the least bit concerned about anything and hangs out with another girl of the same sort named Amain. To Takuya, neither girl is his type, since very popular girls don't usually treat otaku like human beings. Suddenly, Kotoko says something wrong about the anime he loves so much, so Takuya corrects her, and Amain too, in his own way, though her understanding wasn't quite right either, as he'd thought. When he sees that she also understands the anime he loves, Takuya is amazed, since he never imagined a popular girl would be interested in that sort of thing. Meanwhile, Kotoko picks up a Kiramon from Takuya's table and starts playing with it, and little by little, she starts to take an interest in the anime. So she asks Takuya what the story is about, and as soon as he hears that question, Takuya is even more shocked, because that's the legendary question every otaku would love to be asked. After all, that's the moment when they can start talking like. He brings up a topic about a certain anime without seeming out of place, but at the same time, Takuya keeps wondering where he can take the conversation without coming across as a narrow-minded fanboy, while Amain starts opening up to Kotoko, saying she just met a great friend who likes the same things she does. Meanwhile, Takuya goes to the school bathroom to check out the information Amain gave him, and then he discovers that he was right all along about the cape's appearance, which, as it turns out, does indeed appear in episode 2, just as Amain had said. By the end of class, some female students approach Amain and invite her to karaoke after school. Meanwhile, Takuya stands off to the side, eavesdropping on the girls' conversation, and then decides he'll try to talk to Amain, even though he's afraid to do so. But as soon as he reaches her, he discovers that Amain doesn't like twirling her hand the way he'd imagined. After all, it's actually her younger sister who enjoys it. With that, Amain turns her back on him and walks away, and Takuya calls out from a distance that he has an unlimited edition giveaway. And upon hearing this, Amain immediately breaks her pose and goes back to Takuya, running over to see what he's holding. Seeing that he really does have a rare item, Amain starts to open up more and more and says she went to several stores looking for that freebie, but in the end, she didn't find anything. As she keeps talking, Amain realizes she's giving off plenty of signs that she does like to twirl her hand, so she makes the excuse that she went to those stores with her younger sister. Meanwhile, Takuya decides to give her the freebie in the hope of winning her friendship, and Amain, for her part, continues to cover up by saying that her sister will love that freebie, and the very next day, Kotoko starts teasing Takuya by grabbing his eraser and saying it's a spaceship that's abducting her, to which Takuya replies that if she wants to borrow the eraser, all she has to do is ask him. As he walks with Kotoko, she notices that the eraser now features the character Risky, and when he sees that Kotoko knows the character's name, Takuya assumes she's watched the anime, but Kotoko says she's only read the manga, since Amain lent it to her the day before. Upon hearing this, Takuya starts talking about the Kiramon manga, but soon realizes he's rambling so much that he sounds like a nutcase, so he apologizes for it. Contrary to what he expected, however, Kotoko doesn't get upset with him, and instead she asks Takuya to tell her more about Kiramon's manga, but asks him to go a little slower so she can follow his train of thought. After talking a little more, Kotoko asks for the boy's social media handles, and he, in turn, refuses to give them to her in the end, and he only posts Kiramon-related stuff on his accounts. But even though he didn't give them to her, Kotoko manages to find him by his name, and at that point Takuya starts making sarcastic remarks, thinking he's going to get teased again for being a Kiramon otaku. I'll tell you what, these anime are meant to influence Japan's birth rate, and that's very unlikely to happen, guys. I'm just speculating. But instead, Kotoko starts screaming with excitement, saying she's blown away by what's going on, but in a positive way, and seeing this, she points to one of Kiramon's drawings and asks if he's the one who drew it. As for Takuya, he's more surprised than scared by her reaction, since he expected to be made fun of right away. However, Kotoko calms him down and says she thinks his drawing is amazing, and on top of that, she also praises the boy's dedication to creating a drawing as complex as that one. And then Kotoko suddenly grabs her cell phone of Takuya and snaps a photo of the two of them. She remarks that every now and then, it's good to have a picture of him on her social media, so his profile doesn't just consist of drawing photos. But looking at the photo of them together, Takuya is completely uniform in shock. He is totally discredited. To him, it's just not normal for a popular girl to get so close to a smelly otaku like him without being completely bothered by it. The next day, on the subway ride to school, Takuya is deeply mourning the fact that Pashi from Kiramon just died. Even though Pashi was a villain character, Takuya truly understood his value to Sachiko, another character who is incredibly special to him. On top of that, Pashi always gave highly precious advice to the audience, which was another thing that made him so important to the plot. Takuya notes that even though his death is a massive negative, Pashi ultimately had to die to protect Sachiko. Still, Takuya sighs, muttering to himself that he desperately needs to find someone to share this heavy grief with someone so he wouldn't feel so alone. And just then Takuya looks around and sees Amain standing next to him with red eyes. And Takuya then figures that she must have cried a lot the night before because of Pashi's death. But right after that, another boy says she might be in love, which in turn partially undermines Takuya's theory. After all, the girl could be making that expression for countless reasons. Suddenly, two boys walk by, saying the word Pashi, referring to the game they were playing. And as soon as Amain hears that word, she shouts Pashi's name, because she ends up remembering the character since the words Pashi sound very similar. And upon seeing her reaction, Takuya is finally able to confirm that she was crying because of the little anime, and on her way to school, Mani is approached by the captain of the basketball club, who immediately confesses his feelings to her, but Mani. She clearly rejects his request, since he doesn't even know enough about the law to start a relationship. And during the conversation with the girls, Mani almost lets slip that she spends her money on things related to Kiramon, but she only manages to say the beginning of the word Kira before cutting herself off. At that moment, Takuya overhears her and figures she's talking about his anime, but right after that, his mind goes back into denial, telling himself that the girl was probably going to say something else, and he's just letting his imagination run wild. But then, he spots Satiko's magic brooch in her purse, and this fills him with hope once more, since Mani really is an otaku like him. But as soon as she sees him all giddy with joy, Mani brings him back down to earth again, saying she bought that brooch to match her younger sister, who also has one. However, as soon as Takuya mentions Pashi's death, it makes Mani tell the truth for a brief moment. In this case, she confesses that she really likes him, and Nizukatoka shows up right then and notices the. Mani says some compromising things, but the girl plays dumb and says Kotoko misunderstood everything. As the class continues, Takuya realizes he left his book at home, and it just so happens to be for the class taught by the school's strictest teacher. When Kotoko raises her hand and says she doesn't have her book either, at which point a horde of people raise their hands, willing to let her sit with them so she can follow along in their books. However, she declines everyone's help and says that Takuya himself is the one who'll help her. But in reality, Kotoko whispers to Takuya that she noticed him trying to fool the teacher with his math book. So, she staged the whole charade just to sit next to Takuya and lend him her book. After class, everyone gets ready to leave, and Takuya walks through the school hallways, eagerly awaiting the release of Kiramon's random action figure boxes. On the way, he runs into a scowling man who asks him where City Hall is. So Takuya stops to help that guy, and then heads to the store where they sell the Kiramon action figure set. While browsing the store's shelves, Takuya runs into Kotoko and Amain there, and Amain immediately starts talking to him, saying she's not doing what Takuya thinks she's doing. After all, she's just buying that Kiramon action figure set because the Her younger sister asked. Yes, the same old excuse, and after a brief conversation with the girls, Takuya decides to leave and come back only when the place is empty, since he still thinks that an otaku like him doesn't belong walking around with two popular girls from school. But as soon as they see him turning his back on them, they take the initiative to pull him back and ask Takuya to buy the Kiramans with them. And as he opens his surprise action figure box, Takuya breaks free from one of the prejudiced notions he's always had about popular girls. In this case, he now believes that kind popular girls can exist. Another day, Ijichi and Takuya are talking about Kiraman, so he asks which chapter of the manga she's talking about, and upon overhearing the conversation, Mani arrives and says she's talking about Animon from chapter 4. Upon hearing this, Takuya asks how she knows that's the chapter, so Mani gets embarrassed and makes the excuse that her little sister really likes Kiraman, especially chapter 4. Upon hearing this, Takuya is happy to be able to talk to someone about Kiraman. Then, Ijichi asks how many episodes are in the anime, and she replies that there are 14 episodes, so Mani adds that there will be a Volume 2 of the Blu-ray version, and mentions that Volume 1 includes Chapter 0, which is an exclusive episode. At that, Takuya says he can lend them his Blu-ray so they can watch it, so Ijichi gets even more excited and says they can go to Takuya's house to watch it with him. But before he can agree, he's taken aback by the idea of it being at his house. Mani then says it might be a bit much to go to his place to do that, but Ijichi teases Mani by asking if she doesn't like boys, while Takuya says his house wouldn't be the best place for them to meet. After all, it's a mess, and upon hearing this, Ijichi asks if he's hiding something, but Takuya says he just has some drawings of Kiraman in his room. So Mani agrees to go to his house without hesitation and begs him to teach her how to draw. But then she explains that it's so she can draw the characters for her sister, like Vampy, who's the girl's favorite, while Ijichi is excited to go to his house. Once at Takuya's house, Mani wants to see the drawings, while Ijichi wants to see the boys' photo album, and then it suddenly dawns on Takuya that two of the biggest troublemakers are in his room, which drives him into a panic, since he doesn't know what Motako would do in this situation. While he stands in the corner wondering what to do as the two girls rummage through his room, Amain gets jealous because he has an exclusive Lord Earth prize, and Ijichi is looking for the photo album, and at that point Takuya is in complete despair, and says he can lend them the CDs, and they could return them later. Hearing this, Ijichi comes up behind him, saying that earlier she told everyone to watch it together, and Mani says that her touch on Takuya was just a reflex. So he says it's better not to watch them together, since they might end up making noise, but Ijichi asks if it would be like a light-up stick show. Amain says it's not quite like that, and at that, Takuya says he doesn't go that far himself, since he thinks it's a bit over the top, but he has nothing against people who do, and then Takuya asks them how they usually watch anime at home. Hearing this, Mani gets embarrassed and says she makes decorative fans featuring anime characters and keeps the lights off in her room, which makes Ijichi even more excited to discover a new side of the girl. Then they close the shutters, and right in the first episode, everyone is moved, until suddenly a new character appears, and then Takuya notices that even though her name hasn't been revealed, this character has become the most popular of all in the Kiraman community. As she listens to him speak, Ijichi praises the boys' spot-on comments during the anime, and he, in turn, is thrilled to be able to show off all his otaku knowledge without being judged, and suddenly Amain grabs Takuya's shirt, excited by a part of the anime where Pashi appears, and Takuya is left in shock when he sees a popular, pretty girl who smells nice touching him right there in his dark, smelly otaku room. He starts to feel comfortable again, and moves even closer to Mani. At that moment, Ijichi takes a picture of the two of them together, and then starts laughing, so Mani immediately confronts her and complains about the photo she took, promising she won't show it to anyone. Later, though, Ijichi says she's going to post that photo on Instagram, but Mani gives her a cold stare, which makes Ijichi say she was just joking. She then reminds Mani that she wanted to see Takuya's drawings, and Mani says he posted them on Instagram. Mani gets excited and asks Takuya to send her his Instagram handle. After all, not. There's a lot of Kiraman fan art out there, and hearing that, Takuya understands why she's so eager to see his drawings, so he gives her his Instagram handle, but warns her not to go looking at his drawings with too high expectations. As soon as she sees his Instagram page, Mani is taken aback because she'd actually seen his page before, after all, even though he only has around 50 followers. and that's already enough to make him famous among Kiramon fans, especially since the anime isn't that well known. Meanwhile, Ijichi stands off to the side watching the excitement with which Amain and Takuya are talking, then goes back to teasing them, saying the two of them are getting along way too well, and later, Takuya tries to teach Mani how to draw like him. But during the lesson, he feels uncomfortable seeing her get too close, so he makes up an excuse to get her to step away, asking the girl to try using his graphics tablet to draw on her own, and suddenly Takuya notices that Ijichi is really into her own thing, so he apologizes for having isolated her from the two of them, and Ijichi says she's already used to not getting as much attention as Mani. After all, people always talk more to Mani than to her when the two of them are together. But then Mani points out that the same thing happens to Ijichi. In her case, she's also very popular and draws people's attention, and upon hearing this, Ijichi sarcastically remarks on how pretty they both are, saying that their lives aren't exactly easy. Meanwhile, Takuya stands off to the side watching their conversation and notices that the girls are indeed from a world totally different from his own, that of a reclusive otaku. Seeing him so quiet, Ijichi starts striking up a conversation with Takuya, asking what kind of girl he likes, to which he replies that he likes girls like Sadiko, and when they realize he mentioned an anime character, the two start laughing in his face, saying that's the typical response from any otaku. After the conversation, Takuya walks the girls to the front door of his house, and then he says that this is the first time anyone from school has visited his house, so Takuya apologizes if he bothered them in any way, but seeing him like that, Ijichi tells him to relax. After all, she had a lot of fun with him that day, while Mani says the same thing as Ijichi. When he gets home, Takuya sits on his bed, thinking about the day he'd had, and he begins to smell the girl's perfume, almost as if they were still in his room. Realizing he's thinking about it too much, Takuya shifts his focus, so he doesn't come across as one of those classic perverted otaku. But even though he thinks about trying to take his mind off things by drawing, he still thinks about them, especially Mani. So he decides to try to sleep, but Takuya keeps remembering Ijichi in his bed. Neither of them leaves his mind, leaving him very embarrassed and desperate at the thought of having two imaginary girls in his room. The next day, Takuya goes to school tired from not sleeping well. After all, he was too anxious because of what happened the night before in his room, and because of that, he couldn't sleep. So at the end of class, Mani looks for Ijichi, and Takuya replies, saying that Ijichi apparently had some plans and had to leave early. Seeing this, Mani gets really discouraged, since the two of them had planned to go somewhere together, and Takuya sees this as the perfect opportunity to ask for the name of the fake account Amain used to follow him. But she gets embarrassed and says she won't tell him, since she likes a lot of things that aren't just of her own choosing, and upon seeing this, Takuya interprets it as an admission that that fake account is actually hers and not her younger sister's, and when she sees that he's about to uncover her secret, Mani says he made a good try, but adds that he overlooked one thing. In this case, Mani lies, saying her sister is still in elementary school, meaning she isn't allowed to have a cell phone, and since Mani is the closest person to her who has a cell phone, Mani says she created that fake account so her little sister could stay up to date on the Quaira Mao fandoms. At that point, Takuya makes a bit of a scene, saying that if he had a friend named Teiko, he could chat about Quaira Mao live with that friend, and this makes Mani more pensive, and she soon reveals that she says the account she used to follow him is called Imperatriz Shoujo, and on Sunday another episode of Quaira Mao is released. So Takuya remembers that he agreed to discuss the episode with Mani via text. At that point, Mani starts showing even more of Teiko's phone, and Takuya, in turn, says he can't let her beat him in this area. So he stays on the phone with her talking about Quaira Mao the whole afternoon, since they keep talking about it even after the episode ends, the very next day. Takuya thinks about apologizing to Mani for being such an over-the-top otaku the day before. But contrary to what he expected, Mani says she really enjoyed the conversation they had that afternoon, and she even asks them to do it again. And suddenly Idite appears next to them and asks if this is the kind of conversation you have at school. After all, she didn't get the context and thought it was something malicious. Later, Takuya goes to the store and ends up finding a Kiramon pillowcase in the kids section. He gets excited about finding it, since they're all sold out at Animeide, and it's a rare find. So the boys keep playing while a girl tells them not to run, until suddenly Takuya realizes that the girl in question is Idite herself, who, upon being discovered, says she's just looking after her younger siblings. When she sees that Takuya won't stop staring at her, she feels uncomfortable because she's not wearing her usual makeup, and so she asks Takuya to keep their regrettable encounter a secret. The next day at school, Takuya talks to Idite and manages to get her Instagram handle after discussing the live comments that he and Amain made about the latest episode of Kiramum. And as soon as he gets home, Takuya checks his phone and sees a message from Idite Amain asking him to go out. And after receiving 2 calls from Idite Amain asking him to go out, Takuya initially thinks that it's a prank, but on second thought, he believes they wouldn't do something like that. And when he arrives at the meeting, Takuya notices how stunning the 2 girls look, and this makes him feel a little embarrassed. Then Idite makes the situation even worse by suggesting that Takuya go on a date with both of them. Idite will go for a walk while he goes out with Mani, and then Mani will do the same, and he'll go wander around while Takuya goes out with the other girl. When they put this plan into action, Takuya is at a loss and doesn't know where to go, but Mani suggests they head to Animecaps, the place they'd originally agreed to meet. Suddenly, a boy approaches, complimenting Mani and asking her out, then immediately asks if Takuya is her little brother, and she coldly rejects the young man's invitation, saying they don't have time for that. Moving on, Mani explains that even though she spoke kindly to that boy, because she has a stern look on her face, she ends up coming across as angry, so Takuya compliments her and comments on her cool otaku side. And even though Amain tries to cover it up by saying she's doing it for her sister, her excitement at buying the first 3 issues makes it crystal clear that she is, in fact, an otaku. At that moment, a young otaku watching the 2 from afar notices that Amain is a typical Jairu and Takuya is a regular otaku. Although this pairing isn't very common, the young otaku roots for their success, so they go for coffee together. Amain says her sister would be very happy with the purchase she made, but Takuya gets curious and asks what her sister is like. Amain then reveals that she's actually an only child, and as for the little sister she mentions so often, she's just a neighbor who always comes over to Amain's house. So she doesn't even have a biological sister, but rather a sister of sorts, and upon hearing this, Takuya feels more relieved because he thought Amain might be talking about an imaginary sister. At that point, Mani adds that it's easier to call her a sister than to have to explain all the time that she's talking about a neighbor, but Takuya says he still wants to meet this neighbor of hers. After all, it's not every day you meet people who like Kiramon as much as they do, and during their conversation they're surprised by Edith, who says it's her turn to go on a date with the boy, so they decide to sit on a bench and talk until, suddenly, Takuya asks what exactly they're going to do. At that point, Edith says that since they only have an hour for their date, it wouldn't make sense to go see a movie, since that would end up taking longer. So instead of going to the movies, Edith pulls her cell phone out of her pocket and starts testing the filters on Takuya's face. After all, she plans to take some embarrassing photos of him to keep as a souvenir. And besides, Edith says she wants to get back at him for the embarrassing moment when Takuya accidentally saw her without makeup. At that point, Takuya suggests they take some photos of her too to even things out. But Edith says that today it's his turn to be embarrassed all by himself. To make the situation even worse, and Edith gets Takuya to join her in a couple's dance that's going viral on Instagram. And at the end of the dance, they go to watch the final result of the video. And at that point, Takuya starts to feel even more embarrassed and says that this will be a cursed day in his history. So, to avoid becoming a laughingstock, he asks her to keep the video, and then his request is granted. And after that they go to the movie theater to wait for Amain so they can watch the 3 movies together. But suddenly Takuya gets distracted by some Kiramon merchandise for sale, and when she notices that he's only interested in Kiramon, Edith asks if there's anything else he likes as well, and Takuya says he likes an anime he watched last year called High Dollars, and it's about individuality, featuring some idols, but she tries to ask more. Specifically if Takuya likes anyone, and he, in turn, says he has no experience with that kind of thing, while she, Edith, decides to come clean and says that, just like him, she's never been interested in those things either. After all, her motto was that the best thing to do was to spend time with family and friends. But after meeting Takuya, Edith says she started to take some interest in things involving romance. Oh man, this is going to end up turning into a love triangle or a threesome. Actually, it's already a threesome, right? Like, the guy is dating both of them, spending time with each one, and soon they'll have a specific day of the week to do those things, right? I can see it. It's moving forward, and the ever-honest Takuya doesn't quite get it. But Amain finally shows up, completely cutting off the conversation the two of them were having today about relationships, and the next day, they're talking among themselves about the new Kiramon who showed up. Amain and Takuya say his name is Jack and talk more about this new character, leaving Edith amazed at how much they know about Kiramon. However, she quickly changes the subject and asks if they're ready for next week's tests. And then, both Amain and Takuya start looking at each other and realize they're totally screwed when it comes to their studies, since they've been focusing only on watching and keeping up with Kiramon. So Edith offers to help them with their studies, but suddenly, while they're studying, Takuya loses his concentration. Because of how beautiful the two girls are, he reminds himself that he needs to stay focused on what's important right now, which in this case is his studies. He then asks how Edith manages to do so well in her studies, and she replies that all you have to do is pay attention in class and everything works out. For Takuya, this is an unbeatable argument. After a few more minutes of studying, Edith says she needs to head home because it's getting late. She says goodbye to both of them and asks them to stay focused on their studies and not start talking about Kiramon out of the blue. And they both agree with her. After all, exam week is just around the corner. But after just a few minutes of studying, they start goofing off and begin drawing Kiramons while critiquing each other's drawings. Later, on the way home, Manny suddenly invites Takuya over to her house, and when she notices the atmosphere has gotten awkward, she makes the excuse that she wants to continue the battle of drawings they started at the school library, and once at her house, he's surprised by Sayu, the little sister Manny is always talking about. And Sayu contradicts Manny's claim that she likes Kiramon just because of her. After all, Manny is the one who likes Kiramon the most out of the two of them. And on top of that, the little girl confuses Takuya by calling him the girl's girlfriend, something that makes him blush with embarrassment. He then starts talking about Kiramon with Sayu and asks if she really loves the anime as Manny told him. And Sayu reveals that she stopped watching the anime back in first grade, though she confirms that she was the one who introduced Kiramon to Manny, who in turn became much more hooked on the anime than Sayu herself. The girl then criticizes Manny for still liking it, even though she's already in high school. Seeing this, Manny and Takuya feel as if they've just been shot in the gut, since they both still love the anime. So Takuya asks her what she's into these days, and she surprises him by saying she likes shogi. Then she teases Manny by calling Takuya her boyfriend, and Manny shoots back at Sayu, saying he's not her boyfriend. Even though Manny makes it crystal clear that she's not dating Takuya, Sayu keeps pushing the issue, saying that he's at least a potential boyfriend, while Manny says she has no interest in real-world men. After all, she's totally in love with one of the anime characters who. She sees this, but Sayu goes over to Takuya and asks him not to be fooled by what Manny is saying. After all, no woman would bring a boy she's not interested in into her own home. And upon seeing this, Manny kicks Sayu out of the house, having had enough of her, and she then turns to Takuya and apologizes for all the commotion her little sister ended up causing. With that said, he moves on to the drawing contest, and Manny says that if she loses, Takuya can ask for anything, as long as it's not something indecent. And Takuya says he wants the Mizu Luna acrylic action figure if he beats her, and if she beats him, he's willing to give her his Earth Summer action figure. Upon hearing these rules, Manny agrees to them right away, since she's convinced she won't lose under any circumstances. They then start drawing like two crazy people. In the end, Takuya emerges victorious from the battle, and at that moment, Sayu shows up and drags Takuya off to a secluded spot so they can talk, so she asks Takuya to take good care of Manny, because even though she tries to act like a popular girl, she's really just a baby. Seeing how much Sayu cares about Manny makes Takuya very happy, so he suggests they do something together the next time he's around. With that, he says goodbye to Sayu and Manny, then walks home. The next day, during exam week, Takuya scores 291 points, and thanks to Ich, he manages to score slightly above average. In comparison, Ich says he scored 408 points and notes that the exam was actually a bit difficult, while Manny says she scored below average, even falling short of Takuya's score, so she calls him a traitor for getting a much higher score than hers even though he hadn't studied, and says there's no way he could have. She got a higher grade, even though the two of them had been goofing off the whole time, and when he heard her say that, Ich pointed out that they're much closer than usual and asked what kind of nonsense they'd been up to. Manny felt uncomfortable and said it was no big deal, so Ich decided to test Manny's jealousy by asking Takuya to go out, and as expected, Manny asks if she can come too, but Itch reminds her that she's in remedial classes, so she should prioritize her studies above all else. Once at the movie theater, Takuya chooses a movie to watch with Itch, but as soon as he realizes the movie is an absolute piece of trash, Takuya feels guilty for making the girl watch something like that. After all, the movie is about a shark that devours zombies. After the movie, the two decide to play some games together at an arcade, and suddenly, at one point during their outing, Takuya says he's surprised by himself, because in the past, he wasn't even able to look people in the eye, something he can do easily now. And all of this thanks to Itch, who helped him open up more. On the way back home, Itch is deep in thought about what Takuya just told him. And once home, Manny watches a show that talks about a movie called Spirit of Love, a typical romantic film. Until all of a sudden, Manny remembers that Itch asked Takuya out on a date, and she can't get it out of her head until the next day. So she decides to ask the two of them what movie they watched at the theater, and the answer surprises her. After all, they had gone to see Zombies vs. Sharks, and upon hearing this, Manny feels relieved, but right after that, she finds it strange that this has made her feel relieved, so she tells herself that this shouldn't be something that affects her, since what Itch and Takuya do in their daily lives is none of her business. But suddenly, Itch gets all excited and tells her that they took advantage of the outing to take pictures with that instant camera. And upon hearing this, Manny starts asking more about the vibe of the photo they took, so Itch shows her a normal photo of the two of them, putting Manny's mind at ease a bit. However, Takuya notices a suspicious photo on Itch's desk. It was a photo of the girl with an unknown guy. Before he can take a closer look, Itch grabs the photo and runs off to the bathroom, leading Manny to conclude that the man must be a sugar daddy. And that worries him a little, but not enough to want to meddle in the girl's personal life. On the other hand, Takuya says they should indeed invade her privacy if it will help her, and just then Itch comes back from the bathroom, notices the strange atmosphere, and decides to come clean. She explains that the man in the photo is indeed her older brother, and upon hearing this, Takuya and Manny are so relieved they nearly fall over, even feeling embarrassed by the absurd theories they'd come up with. Itch then details the family tree, explaining that the oldest of the 5 siblings is 25, and the youngest is only 7. Shortly after that, Manny is called aside by another student to speak with the teacher. But before that, she makes a point of spending a moment with Itch so that everything is completely clear, and she makes it clear that her friend is very important to her, and that Itch can count on her. Absolutely everything is out in the open, and when he sees this, Itch is completely smitten and starts lavishing praise on Manny's personality. And she even asks Takuya if Manny's honest and straightforward manner touches his heart too, and Takuya tries to sound deep, replying that being in a relationship with someone so honest is wonderful. But the way he speaks ends up making Itch a little uncomfortable, as if there were a strange vibe or a twinge of jealousy in the air, and later on the mood at school changes completely, because the teacher starts talking about the upcoming sports festival, and Itch, who's a master at everything intellectual, gets really down because she thinks she's hopeless at ball sports, while Manny, wanting to prove herself, says she's going to shine in tomorrow's games, and Takuya, for his part, always the level-headed one in the group, reminds her that she doesn't need to push herself so hard or be so hard on herself. But Manny ignores his advice and immediately invites him to watch her women's basketball game. The next day, Manny simply puts on a spectacular show. She takes the court with everything she's got and dominates the game, making 2 baskets in a row that put her team in the lead. While she shines, Takuya sits in the stands listening to the other girls gossip, and they mention that Manny has even won the national championship, and that because of her cool demeanor on the court, she's been nicknamed the Iron Mask. According to them, she remains completely calm and expressionless no matter how intense the game gets. And this causes Takuya to fall into deep thought, realizing that Manny seems like someone who's really hard to get close to, and her unbeatable playing style only reinforces this idea that she's on another level. With that, Takuya puts his shyness aside and starts shouting words of encouragement to the girl, wishing her good luck in the game. Hearing his shout, the Iron Mask softens for a second. After all, Manny flashes a genuine smile, and the entire audience goes wild at that moment of unexpected charisma, and right then she gets ready to prove her worth even more. After all, she feels she needs to make up for something. In her mind, Abridged has already proven herself to be sociable and super smart, so Manny wants to work twice as hard at sports so she doesn't fall behind. But as she thinks too much about Takuya while running, She ends up getting distracted and takes a dramatic tumble on the court, and even as she lies on the ground, her thoughts don't stop, and she keeps thinking she needs to win in gym class, since she failed in her studies, and while she's there processing the fall, a girl approaches and asks if she likes that, and since she has Takuya on her mind, Manny immediately freaks out, thinking the girl is asking if she likes the boy. But the reality was simpler, and she was talking about basketball. Right after that, she invites her to join the school's official club. Meanwhile, Takuya starts wandering around the school, thinking about the competitions, and he imagines what a disaster it would be if he were bad at sports. After all, he hates the idea of holding the team back. Amid these thoughts, he remembers Ajit, who was so sad because she didn't know how to handle balls. So he decides to stop by the ping pong club to see how she's doing. When he gets there, he finds confirmation of what he already knew. Ajit really is a disaster at playing anything. But as he looks around, Takuya notices something curious. There are many more. There were more kids watching the ping pong than at the basketball court, where the skill level was much higher, and the reason, however, becomes obvious in seconds. Ajit's breasts bounce up and down as she tries to hit the ball, and even though she's terrible at it, and making a complete fool of herself, Takuya notices that she's giving it her all, and in a way, this makes him admire her dedication, even if ping pong isn't exactly her strong suit. Back on the baseball field, things weren't looking good for Takuya, who ends up missing every ball. He figures everyone must be annoyed with him, but a random kid approaches him and praises his determination, saying that Takuya hit every ball with his utmost effort, even though he didn't make contact with a single one. And after the game ends, the latest gossip starts circulating, and she mentions that there's going to be an all-you-can-eat buffet with everyone from all the sports teams. Amain, being more reserved, immediately puts a damper on the fun, saying she doesn't want to go at all. After all, the place. It's going to be packed with boys, and she doesn't feel at all comfortable with that. However, Takuya ends up getting invited by the baseball team to a karaoke night. When Mani hears that there will be anime songs there, her eyes actually light up, and she starts to see the idea as the same thing as facing a bunch of boys, and we immediately start teasing her, reminding her that she used to hate places full of men, but now she'd make an exception because of the anime songs. But Mani, as a true Kiramon fan, really wants to sing the show's theme songs, and in the end, we come up with a better idea. The three of us go to karaoke alone to celebrate the start of vacation. And when he hears her talk about vacation, Takuya remembers that he always spent his vacations at home alone, since he didn't know anyone, and the girl's invitation sounds like music to his ears. After all, he finally feels like he has real friends now. When the day arrives, the girls get ready to go out with Takuya, and on the way, they receive several invitations to go out, but they turn everyone down en masse. After all, they're determined to go to karaoke with friends. When they gather in the karaoke room, Takuya even feels guilty, apologizing for taking up all of their time, but they immediately reply that they're there because they want to be, and that they could go out with other girls any other day. And Eiji gives the boy a little push to loosen up, and he, feeling motivated, declares that he'll sing with all his heart to repay them for their company. And so, when he chooses the song, Eiji teases him, saying that if the boy sings well, Mani will end up falling for him. Amain even tries to keep her cool, but inside, she's full of anticipation, and they try to guess which romantic song he's chosen. But Takuya surprises everyone by flashing a jump-style smile and calling his pet monster, and he starts singing with contagious joy, completely lost in the moment. When the song ends, reality hits him, and he blushes with embarrassment for thinking that, revealing an embarrassing otaku side that should have stayed hidden. However, both girls love his performance, saying he was amazing. Amain even gives him a gentle scolding, saying he should have warned her. After all, I wanted to sing a duet with him, and riding the momentum, Eiji plays the song again, and the three of you start a private concert in that little room, singing your hearts out. You spend hours and hours singing anime songs until you're exhausted, and during a break, Takuya looks at Eiji and remarks that she looks a lot like Midi, an idol from Kiramon. Amain agrees, which makes the girl really excited, and she tries to imitate the character right then and there. But the result is so embarrassing that Amain tells her never to do that again, so as not to ruin the idol's image. Just then, Takuya decides to go get some drinks, but on the way he finds himself thinking about how special that day was, because even though he enjoyed playing baseball, Takuya thinks karaoke is 1,000 times better. When he returns to the room, he starts getting confused about the drink glasses, since he can't remember which one is his. And just then, Eiji shows up and casually takes the first glass she sees in his hand, as if it were hers, and then Takuya ends up. Remembering the glasses, she says that Eiji took his glass from you, which means the two of you basically just almost kissed, and Eiji tries to brush it off by saying you're not kids anymore, but when she looks at the glass, it hits her, and she ends up getting really embarrassed too. When it's time to leave, they remember that vacation officially starts the next day, and then her mom asks them to set aside a day in August for a special outing. Eiji immediately suggests a beach barbecue, the one her older brother organizes every year, and she assures you it'll be laid back. After all, only her older brother and younger brother will be there, along with Seo, but right after that, she reveals that his sisters are really eager to meet Takuya, and that makes the boy incredibly nervous. As soon as the day of the beach trip arrives, Takuya is taken aback when Eiji calls him over to show him the bikinis they're wearing. When I arrive at the beach, Eiji compliments his friend's swimsuit, but Manny tells her not to stare too much because she's embarrassed. At that moment, Manny also says she won't go swimming, but an hour before they arrive at the beach, while Manny is trying to apply her sunscreen, Takuya finds himself imagining what it would be like to have fun with friends at the beach. However, Seo interrupts his daydream, and Takuya realizes they bought Seo a new cell phone, and she says she'd like to take some cool photos, so when Manny finds the sunscreen, she asks Takuya if he'll put some on her, and he agrees. They head toward the beach. The sun is already beating down, and suddenly run into Eiji and her brothers, but when Takuya looks at her oldest brother, he feels a little scared of him because he looks like an executioner. At that moment, Genichiro thanks them for being friends with the girl, and as he introduces himself, he also introduces his younger brothers. The blonde one is Kakeru, and the dark-haired one is Hibiki. Then, Manny, Takuya, and Seo introduce themselves to Eiji's brothers as well. Once the introductions are done, Eiji calls the boys over to show the girls around, so Takuya stays behind with Eiji's brothers, and he immediately starts to feel out of place, since he doesn't know anyone there. As for Eiji's younger brothers, they start teasing Takuya, especially by calling him the girl's boyfriend. At that point, Takuya panics and denies it. As for Genichiro, he explains that since his brothers are just kids, they've gotten the wrong idea that Takuya and Eiji are a couple just because they're friends. Hearing Genichiro explain it that way, Takuya feels more relieved. He realizes the guy is actually cooler than expected. Right then, Genichiro starts testing Takuya. He asks if he'd ever try anything with the girl. Old Takuya instantly says no, just to prove they're only friends. But Genichiro takes this the wrong way too. He thinks it means Takuya doesn't find his sister attractive. Back at the beach, Eiji asks Takuya if he likes their swimsuits. But Takuya is still sweating over Genichiro's reaction. This just leaves the girls completely confused. They set up the food on the table. After that, Genichiro tells everyone they can go have fun in the water. But before Eiji and his little brothers can run off, Genichiro stops them. They have to stay and help out. Amain steps in and says Takuya and Seo can help too. But Genichiro shuts it down. He says they don't need to do much. Meanwhile, Amain and Takuya head into the sea. Takuya is absolutely mesmerized by her beauty. But Seo, who's right there, catches him staring. She teases him, saying she can guess exactly what he's thinking. She says Takuya is thinking about how gorgeous Amain is, and that he wants to take a picture with her. Takuya is shocked. Seo actually got it mostly right, except for the picture part. Seeing them chat, Amain speaks up. She says that in reality, Seo is the one who wants to take the photo. Seo gets annoyed at being exposed, since that was the whole reason she got a phone in the first place. Then, Amain remembers the first generation from Chapter 7 of Kiraman. It showed the legendary beach day, called Smiling Sun Game. Takuya adds to it, saying the beach legend looks like a crab, but it's actually a turtle. He gets the idea to build it out of sand. Watching them, Genichiro feels a bit down. He wishes he could be having fun with his friends too. Once they finish building the beach legend, everyone is thrilled. Because they did that, Seo makes an excuse. She says they need to make the eyes a bit bigger, and that she's going to step back to check the proportions. Amain notices just how excited Seo is. Takuya remarks that the girl is quite a perfectionist. Seeing this, Amain apologizes to Takuya for dragging him into it. Seo seizes the moment and snaps a photo of the two of them. Amain catches her doing it, which makes her feel a bit awkward. Right then, ID runs up to Amain and tackles her. Both of them splash right into the water. Amain gets a little annoyed and splashes her back. This starts a mini water war. Soon, they accidentally hit Seo, who dives right into the fun and joins the fight. Meanwhile, Kakeru and Hibiki approach Takuya. They ask if he's the pro who fetched the 1-ton chocolate for Edith. Before he can answer, the two start blasting him with water guns. They end up knocking him down onto the sand. Takuya is shocked by how much energy these middle school kids have. Edith walks over and tells Takuya he can scold her brothers. After all, they're being totally spoiled. But Takuya smiles and says he's an only child. To him, hanging out with them feels just like having siblings, and he's actually having a blast. Kakeru starts to realize that Takuya is a really cool guy. He asks if they can bury Takuya in the sand. Takuya agrees to the prank. Seeing this, Amain and the other girls run over and ask to join in on burying him too. Meanwhile, Seo keeps taking photos of Takuya next to Amain. Suddenly, while playing volleyball, Kakeru bumps right into Edith. The impact shoves her face to face with Takuya, so close they almost kiss. After that awkward moment, they all decide to gather under a tent to grab some food. Edith's brothers slide over to Takuya. They suggest he should sit a little closer to their sister. Hibiki adds to it, claiming Takuya is Edith's boyfriend, so it's only natural for him to be closer to her than anyone else. Hearing this totally random claim, Seo walks up to Takuya, giving him a look of pure disgust. After all, she was absolutely sure he was meant for Amain. Kakeru points at the girls and laughs, teasing that they're fighting over Takuya. But the girls fire back, snapping that they aren't fighting over anyone. Annoyed, Kakeru goes over to Seo. He brags that Amain won't be able to steal Takuya from his sister, especially since Edith already managed to take a pure, perfect photo with him. Hearing this, Seo adjusts her glasses, visibly irritated that Edith is already on that level with Takuya. So she raises the stakes. She blabbers that one time, Takuya almost did something totally inappropriate with Amain right in her bedroom. Hearing such scandalous talk, the brothers beg her to stop. Edith quickly changes the subject, telling the kids to go compete among themselves instead. The boys start talking about video games, bragging about their latest achievements. They turn to Seo, asking about her own gaming accomplishments. But she just looks down on them, asking if they ever do anything productive instead of just playing video games all day. Noticing that the kids are starting to fight, Edith steps in and tells the three of them to just be friends. Amain turns to Seo and points out that she was way too harsh on the boys. After all, being good at a video game is actually pretty cool. To smooth things over, Takuya steps up and offers to buy ice cream for everyone, but he asks Seo to come along with him. On the way, Takuya tries to spark up a conversation. He talks about the trip, sharing how excited he is to be at the beach for the very first time with actual friends. But Seo shuts down and stays completely quiet the entire time. Suddenly, Takuya tells her that his only goal is for everyone to have a good time, including her. Hearing this, Seo finally shows a tiny bit of emotion. She grabs the money and decides to go buy the ice cream by herself. A bit later, Seo goes back to the two boys. She apologizes for taking things too far earlier that day. To make up for it, she hands each of them an ice cream cone. Meanwhile, Takuya and the others watch the kids from a distance. They're all happy to see them finally making peace. Amain thanks Takuya for making it happen. After all, he was the one who bought the ice cream, making it way easier for Seo and the boys to patch things up. While everyone is busy having fun, Takuya finds himself standing alone in a corner. Suddenly, Genichiro sneaks up behind him. He hits him with a tough question. Who does he like more, Edith or Amain? Caught off guard by the embarrassing question, Takuya simply says he's just friends with both of them. But Genichiro won't let it go. He sets up a hypothetical scenario. If both girls asked him out on the exact same day, who would Takuya pick first? Takuya gives a clever answer, saying he'd simply hang out with both of them. Genichiro shifts to a more serious tone. He asks Takuya to take good care of both girls. He explains that there are way too many creeps constantly trying to get close to them. As an older brother, Genichiro makes it clear he would never let a sketchy guy anywhere near his sister. As they're talking, Edith and Amain start walking over. Edith mentions that Takuya actually made her cry once. The second he hears this, Genichiro glares daggers at the boy. Takuya quickly defends himself, explaining that Edith was crying because of a movie they were watching, not because he did anything bad to her. By the end of the afternoon, everyone starts packing up to head home. Takuya notices Edith is still in her swimsuit and asks if she's going to change. She explains that she's going home by car, so she doesn't need to change right now. She also mentions that she'll be celebrating the Obon festival, meaning she won't be able to hang out with him and Amain. Takuya tells her not to worry about it. Edith smirks and teases him, saying Takuya must be thrilled since he'll get Amain all to himself. But Takuya fires back, saying that things are way more fun when all three of them are together. As they keep talking, Edith blushes like crazy, which makes Takuya feel super awkward too. Right on cue, Genichiro pops up between them, warning Takuya once again not to get close to Edith with any hidden motives. A moment later, Seo approaches Takuya to show him the photos she took of him at the beach. Takuya smiles and tells her that it was genuinely the best day of his life. On the way back home, Amain gives Takuya a fist bump, and he quickly thanks her. Suddenly, Seo falls fast asleep and leans right against Takuya. Amain apologizes for her, but Takuya smiles and says he doesn't mind at all. Just then, a lady getting off the train turns to Amain. She mentions how beautiful her daughter is, clearly talking about Seo. Hearing this, Amain blushes like crazy. The way the lady said it made it sound like Amain was Seo's mom, and Takuya was the dad. Once he gets back home, Takuya sits down to start his homework. But he instantly gets distracted by a drawing of his mother that's almost finished. He decides to finalize the drawing before hitting the textbooks. While he's drawing, his phone rings. It's Amain, inviting him to hang out. A bit later, Amain is waiting for him at the meetup spot. She notices he's taking quite a while. Suddenly, Takuya shows up just as planned. She apologizes for calling him out of nowhere, but Takuya says it's fine. However, he finds it super weird that she asked to meet up at a wedding hall. Amain explains the situation. She says her mom asked her to find models for a photo shoot. Since she needed a guy, she decided to call him. Hearing this, Takuya assumes she wants him to take the photos, not actually be in them. To him, the idea of being a model is just too absurd to be true. But to his absolute surprise, Amain wants him to be the actual model. The moment he realizes this, Takuya runs away. He shouts that there's no way he's doing the photo shoot. Amain drags him right back. She explains that they only need to take a photo of his hands. Plus, he's going to get paid for it. There's literally no reason for him to refuse. Hearing about the cash, Takuya changes his mind and agrees to help. During their chat, they are interrupted by Amain and Tamaki, who happens to be Kei's mom. Seeing them side by side, Takuya notices they give off the exact same mature, cool vibe, even though Tamaki is twice their age. As she starts talking to Kei, Tamaki offers to do her makeup. She promises to make Kei the most beautiful girl in the world. Kei gets totally embarrassed and begs her mom not to act like that, at least not in public. Seeing this energetic side of Tamaki, Takuya takes back what he thought earlier. He notes that the two don't actually look alike at all. In fact, Tamaki acts way more like Aegis than Kei does. Once the excitement dies down, Tamaki walks over to Takuya. She tells him that a crew will handle his outfit while she preps Kei's makeup. Left alone with him for a moment, Tamaki remarks that Takuya looks like a pretty plain guy, but she can tell he's a good person. She starts reminiscing about her high school days, back when she first started dating Kei's dad. Seeing her mom walk down memory lane again, Kei cuts her off. She reminds her that she has already told the story of how Tamaki and her dad met 1,000 times. Hearing that, Tamaki starts to suspect that her daughter and Takuya might have something going on, but Kei immediately shuts down the rumor. She snaps that she and Takuya are nowhere near that stage. Even though they get along, Kei makes it clear she has zero interest in romance, at least for now. Tamaki then brings up an old superstition. She says that if you wear a wedding dress before your actual wedding, you'll end up getting married late in life. Kei reiterates that she couldn't care less. On top of that, she points out that Takuya only cares about Kiraman. Tamaki keeps teasing her, claiming the makeup she's doing will force even Takuya to pay closer attention to her. Meanwhile, Takuya feels completely out of place. He's way outside his natural habitat, and his anxiety is starting to skyrocket. But suddenly, he sees Kei walking over, and he's absolutely stunned by how beautiful she looks. The photographer starts snapping a few pictures of the two. He wants them to get used to the camera and look a bit more natural. As he shoots, the photographer asks Takuya to hold Kei's hand to get the perfect shot. Still feeling super embarrassed, the two finally hold hands. Tamaki notices how incredibly stiff they are during the shoot. Kei reminds her that she's never done anything like this before, so it's only natural for her to be nervous. Hearing this, Tamaki gets an idea. She pulls out a photo from when Kei was only 3 years old. Takuya bursts out laughing at the pictures Tamaki is showing him, making Kei even more embarrassed. But once he stops laughing and takes a serious look, Takuya notices that Kei was bursting with energy in every single photo. She tells Takuya to stop staring at her childhood pictures. Tamaki asks if they managed to relax a bit. After all, she showed them the photos just to help them loosen up. After that, the two share a laugh and manage to finish the shoot with a lot less tension on their shoulders. Once the session is over, Tamaki grabs a few more childhood pictures of Kei and offers to show them. Takuya instantly asks to see the absolute best ones she has. On another day, Takuya is walking down the street, sweating bullets in the heat. He decides to buy a drink from a nearby vending machine. Suddenly, Izuchi approaches him and asks what he's doing. Takuya explains he's just buying a drink. Hearing this, Izuchi tells him to forget about the machine and go straight to the supermarket instead. After all, things are way cheaper there. With that said, she grabs him by the hand so they can shop together. Once they get to the market, the two sit down to drink what they just bought. Izuchi rubs it in Takuya's face that they saved money. She brags that at the supermarket, they got 2 drinks for the price of 1. During their chat, Izuchi mentions that someone talked to her on the barbecue day about some inappropriate things that supposedly happened between Takuya and Kei. Realizing she completely misunderstood the situation and is spreading rumors, Takuya quickly defends himself. He tells her that nothing actually happened between them, but Izuchi remains highly suspicious, since he finds it weird that Kei brought him to her room in the first place. Switching subjects, Izuchi suggests that he should visit her house too. She mentions that her siblings really liked him, and they won't stop asking her to bring Takuya over. As she speaks, she gets a bit excited and admits she'd also love to have him visit. Takuya is completely clueless and asks why she's saying all this. Izuchi makes up a random excuse, claiming it's unfair for him to only visit Kei's house. During their chat, her phone rings. Takuya pays attention to her call and realizes Izuchi was actually waiting for someone else. She was just killing time with him. Izuchi says goodbye, but before leaving, she asks him out on a date sometime. On another day, Takuya is slacking in bed, complaining that his 1-week vacation is already coming to an end. Suddenly, he receives a message from both girls, inviting him to hang out at the Hanabi festival. Takuya agrees instantly and starts wondering what outfits they'll wear. On the day of the festival, he sees both of them wearing yukatas. It completely blows him away. To make things even more intense, Izuchi suggests they hold hands like a couple, using the excuse that he might get lost. Hearing this, Takuya instantly flashes back to the photo shoot he did with Kei, causing him to freeze up completely. Noticing this, Izuchi asks if he and Kei were actually just acting, or if they are genuinely dating. Takuya and Kei immediately deny it, but Izuchi keeps pushing, saying that if they already held hands, it must mean something. Takuya then points out that just the day before, Izuchi dragged him into the donkey store by his hand. Suddenly, Izuchi freezes. Kei snaps that she hadn't heard anything about that little moment between them. Trying to clear her name, Izuchi claims she didn't do anything major, since it was just a light touch. She cracks a joke that if they organize things right, everyone can end up happy. After thinking it over, Izuchi makes all 3 of them hold hands. She claims that if only 2 of them do it, it looks way too suspicious. As they walk through the festival, Takuya and the girls find a booth selling Kiramon masks. They decide to stop by and check them out. A moment later, Izuchi is left alone with Takuya just as the fireworks start. Takuya looks back on all the cool moments he spent with her and Kei. Izuchi is completely awestruck by the beauty of the fireworks. She can't decide whether to just stand there and watch or take some photos. She looks over and is shocked to see Takuya crying. Takuya quickly apologizes. He explains that this summer has been way too much fun for it to end so quickly. Hearing this, Izuchi suggests they make a promise. She says they should hang out even more often. This way, they'll be able to share even more special moments like that one. Meanwhile, Kei is chatting with some friends. Suddenly, she turns away from the girls and starts walking toward Izuchi and Takuya. Right then, out of absolutely nowhere, Izuchi blabs that she likes the boy. Everyone frees up, their cheeks turning bright red. Izuchi immediately blushes with embarrassment too. She quickly twists the meaning of her words, shouting that she doesn't like him in a romantic way, just as a friend. Hearing this, Takuya says he likes her as a friend too, but he quickly notices how awkward those words sound coming out of his mouth. During their conversation, Kei cuts in and starts teasing them. She laughs, saying that Izuchi just confessed her love to the boy. Izuchi fires back, repeating that she only likes him as a friend. But Kei doesn't buy it at all. She teases that Izuchi is clearly trying to become Takuya's first girlfriend. Deep down, Izuchi knows she's right, but she tries to play it off. She tells Kei that she likes her too, as a friend of course. With that, the two girls start laughing together at the whole situation. The next day, Takuya discovers he had a mountain of homework to do during the vacation, but he completely forgot about it. He starts blaming himself for slacking off the entire break. He left everything to the last minute, and now needs to finish it as fast as possible. Meanwhile, Izuchi gets a call from Kei, who admits she didn't do her homework either. Izuchi wishes her and Takuya good luck, since neither of them managed to finish on time. Later on, Izuchi is talking to a friend, bragging that she only has 1 page of Japanese left to complete all her assignments. On the other hand, Takuya and Kei are absolutely killing themselves studying just to hand in their tasks on time. The next day at school, the two show up to class completely exhausted. After all, they had to pull an all-nighter to finish the homework without a single break. As class begins, Izuchi notices she forgot her mechanical pencil. She asks to borrow one from Takuya, who immediately complains. Izuchi tells him to chill, saying this is the absolute last time she'll ever borrow anything from him. After all, the students are changing seats later that day. Once the teacher rearranges the seating chart, Takuya notices that the students sitting near Izuchi look genuinely happy. It makes him realize just how lucky he was to sit behind her all this time. He notes that if it weren't for that seating arrangement, he would have never become friends with her and Kei. He feels deeply grateful for sitting behind her for so long. But as he looks closer at the person now sitting directly in front of him, Takuya is shocked. Sitting right there is Kei herself. During the lecture, Kei starts complaining about having to study classical Japanese. She grumbles that the subject is basically a sleeping spell, since studying classical Japanese always knocks her right out. A bit later, Takuya is surrounded by 2 classmates. They approach him to ask if he's actually close with Kei. They mention they noticed he talks to her so easily, and it leaves them incredibly impressed. The boys keep talking to him, until suddenly, one of them points out that there's a huge chance Kei is actually an otaku just like them. But the guy next to him bursts out laughing at such a ridiculous idea, saying a cool girl like Kei would never be an otaku. Meanwhile, Takuya catches Kei staring back at him with a terrifying look, as if ordering him to deny the otaku rumor. Cracking under her creepy gaze, Takuya quickly tells the guy that in reality, it's her younger sister who's the otaku. Hearing this, the guy agrees, remembering that Kei is always talking about her otaku little sister. With that, the boys head off without asking for any more private details about Kei's life. Takuya breathes a sigh of relief. If they had stayed any longer, he definitely would have let the cat out of the bag. Meanwhile, a classmate approaches Kei and asks why she's making that face, but Kei just brushes it off, saying it's nothing. Over in another hallway, Edith approaches 2 of her friends and notices how close they're standing. The 2 proudly announce they've started dating. Edith tells the guy he better take good care of her friend. As they keep chatting, her friends ask about the confession Saito made to Edith a few days ago. Edith replies that she politely rejected him. Her friend is relieved by how Edith handled Saito, calling him a typical player who never wants anything serious. She describes Saito as the type of guy who confesses and then just disappears. Hearing this makes Edith flash back to her own confession to Takuya. She quickly tries to lie to herself, whispering that it wasn't a real confession, just an "I like you," that she'd say to any normal friend. Back in the classroom, Edith is still spaced out thinking about Takuya when suddenly, he pops up right in front of her, scaring her half to death. Takuya explains he's only there to ask for help with an English question he didn't quite get. Edith tries to act cool and says she doesn't mind helping. As she explains the answer, Takuya remarks that she'd make an excellent teacher. Edith teases him back, saying he's turning into quite the smooth talker. Takuya then confesses that he genuinely misses her now that she's sitting so far away from him. But he quickly clarifies that he isn't hitting on her or anything. Once he gets back to his own desk, Takuya notices a note written in his English book. He checks to see what it says and catches a message from Edith. She had written "I love you," but crossed out the word love and replaced it with just to mess with him. The next day, Takuya gets to school and finds Edith sitting in his chair. He tells her she can stay there and that he'll just find another spot. But Edith smirks and says he can sit on her lap instead. Takuya rejects the offer almost instantly. Edith giggles, confessing she's just teasing him. Switching gears, Edith brings up the biggest event of the second semester. She doesn't say it directly, hinting only that it starts with the letter F and ends with L. Takuya and Kei try to guess, but both fail miserably since they can only think of things related to Kiramon. With that, Edith explains she's talking about the cultural festival, which will last for 2 days. She notes that on the first day, students will set up their booths and attractions. On the second day, they'll take part in club activities and committees. Suddenly, some girls approach them, curious about what they're discussing. Feeling like he's having way too much social interaction for one day, Takuya decides to leave the classroom and head somewhere less crowded. Back with Edith, she listens to one of the girls talking about the cultural festival's closing event. The event will end with a huge fireworks display. According to one of the girls, if a boy and a girl hold hands while watching the fireworks, they will be happy together forever. Because of this, the girl warns them to be careful about whose hand they hold during the event. Hearing this, Kei says she isn't worried at all. She guarantees she won't be holding any boy's hand that day. But Edith tells Kei to be careful anyway, warning her that a guy might just pop up out of nowhere and force her to hold his hand. The next day, the entire class starts getting hyped up for the upcoming cultural festival. Kei doesn't understand what all the excitement is about. However, Takuya knows exactly what's going on. He explains that the whole class is planning to pressure Kei and Edith into agreeing to cosplay during the festival. Out of absolutely nowhere, a student stands at the front of the classroom and asks for cosplay ideas. Several students raise their hands and make suggestions. But hearing this, Kei snaps that no matter how much they think about it, she isn't dressing up as anything. Edith tries to cheer Kei up, mentioning that Takuya also wants to see her cosplay as something. Kei still refuses. Edith keeps pushing until suddenly, Kei gives in. She agrees to cosplay, but on one condition. Every single student in the class has to cosplay too. The students instantly agree to the idea. They shout that it'll look just like Halloween, making the event even better than originally planned. Takuya notes that the girls had a great idea, but as he processes what he just heard, he realizes that he'll have to dress up as something too. The next day, the students start preparing everything needed for the cultural festival, including crafting each student's cosplay and decorating the classrooms. Meanwhile, Kei chats with Edith and discovers that Edith is going to make her own maid uniform. Kei thinks that sounds pretty difficult, but Edith says the hardest part is actually saving up the money for the materials since they need so many pieces. Kei looks at some cosplay designs in her notebook and decides to dress up as Ms. Aluna, a Kiramon character who wears a bunny suit. Hearing this, a nearby classmate warns Kei that she shouldn't wear that outfit. She points out that it shows way too much skin. Kei realizes the classmate is right and notes she would be way too embarrassed to wear something like that. So, she decides to go as the Earth God instead. Since all she needs to do is put on a bartender outfit, and the cosplay is good to go. Plus, she won't be showing too much skin in that attire. However, Kei remembers that she'll still need a globe helmet to finalize the look. She asks if she can just wear the helmet to school, causing a nearby classmate to freak out. The girl yells that it would be an absolute crime for a beauty like Kei to hide her face. Later on, Edith walks over to a group of students helping with the festival decorations and praises them for their hard work. One of the boys smiles and replies, which instantly triggers his girlfriend to start scolding him. Confused by the sudden drama, Edith points out that they shouldn't be fighting since they're deeply in love. Another classmate explains to Edith that this is totally normal. She admits she'd be jealous too if she caught her boyfriend chatting up other girls. She tells Edith that she'll experience jealousy soon enough, once she finds a guy she actually likes. Edith quickly changes the subject, claiming she'll never meet anyone who could make her feel that way. But right after saying those words, Edith spots Takuya talking to another girl and lending her his scissors. She immediately marches over to him, making it glaringly obvious that she's jealous of their little interaction. Later, some classmates approach Edith and Kei. They explain that the two of them need to spend most of their time out in the hallway. That way, they'll attract way more people to their cafe and maximize profits. Kei grumbles that this strategy seems a bit shady, but one of the boys fires back, saying that seeing the two of them in cosplay is worth more than 1,000,000 yen, so everyone should be grateful to get it for cheap. Once class ends, Takuya realizes he hasn't even started prepping his own cosplay yet. He decides to hurry up, but before he can make a run for it, Edith stops him. She drags him to her place so they can figure out their cosplays together. Arriving at the apartment, Takuya feels his heart racing since he's once again completely alone with a girl. Noticing that they're already running late, Edith says they need to get a move on before Genichiro gets back to the apartment. Takuya still finds the whole situation bizarre. After all, he's hanging out with a girl in a complete stranger's apartment, which definitely isn't a normal Tuesday for him. To make matters worse, Takuya catches Edith in a suggestive position, sending him into total shock. Noticing his shyness, Takuya tries to play it cool, stammering that he's completely fine. During their chat, the doorbell rings. Edith answers it and welcomes Amain inside. She immediately apologizes to everyone for being late. Takuya thanks his lucky stars for bringing Amain to the room. After all, he would have felt super awkward being left alone with Edith the entire time. But after thinking about it a little more, Takuya realizes that having two Jairas with him inside an apartment makes the situation 10 times worse. Moving forward with the project, Takuya finishes crafting the Earth God's headpiece. The girls are absolutely blown away by his incredible skills. Takuya tries on the Earth God cosplay, and the girls praise his impression, noting he looks exactly like the character. Getting a bit too excited, Amain asks to try on the cosplay. Takuya hands her the globe headpiece, but Amain tells him he needs to take off his vest too. Takuya completely misinterprets her request, shouting that she's being totally inappropriate. But Amain insists, snapping that it would be a total lack of respect to cosplay the great Earth God half-heartedly. With that, Amain grabs the rest of the outfit and heads to the bathroom to change. But right as she's about to put the headpiece on, it hits her. Her lips would be touching the exact same spot Takuya's lips just touched. The thought starts driving her crazy. On top of that, she notices the outfit smells exactly like Takuya, which is another massive trigger for her. In the end, she walks out of the bathroom without changing. Takuya asks if she didn't like the cosplay. Amain makes up a quick excuse, claiming she just doesn't want to ruin the outfit before the big day. Still confused, Takuya asks if the clothes smell bad. Even though she tries to play it off, Takuya starts drowning in guilt. He immediately apologizes for making her go through that. Amain tries to ease the tension she just created, telling him he's taking things way too far. Shifting back to the festival prep, Edith points out they've made a ton of progress since arriving at the apartment. However, Amain says she still wants to do more. Edith reminds her that it's already late at night, meaning Genichiro will be heading back home soon. Amain feels a bit disappointed since they were finally getting into a good groove. Takuya suggests they just continue working at school the next day. But Edith points out they don't have school tomorrow because it's Saturday. Instead of just heading home, Edith suggests they throw a sleepover right then and there. She explains that Genichiro always leaves a futon for her whenever she stays over. Edith says she can share the futon with Amain, while Takuya can sleep in the room with her older brother, Genichiro. Hearing this absurd suggestion, Takuya rejects it instantly. He claims it would be way too problematic for him to sleep in the same room with another guy, especially since they're almost adults now. But Amain actually agrees with Edith, saying a sleepover sounds like a ton of fun. Seeing that Amain is on board, Edith pressures Takuya to give in too. She tells them she'll talk to her brother about the sleepover plan. As soon as Genichiro gets home, he listens to the girl's idea. He notes that the responsible choice would be to say no, but in the end, he lets them stay. In exchange, Genichiro just demands that they notify their parents. Amain calls her mother right away. Meanwhile, Genichiro takes Takuya's phone to speak with Takuya's mom directly, successfully convincing her to let him stay over. Hanging up the phone, Genichiro mentions that Takuya's mom sounded incredibly surprised about something. Takuya looks away and confesses the truth. This is actually his first time ever having a sleepover. So, it's only natural for his mom to find the whole situation a bit weird. Hearing this, Genichiro remarks that it's important to have these kinds of experiences while you're young. He mentions he used to do this stuff all the time back in high school. With that, Genichiro tells Takuya to make sure he has plenty of fun at his very first sleepover. Later, at a convenience store, Takuya is wide-eyed, shocked by how they literally sell everything there. He's snapped out of his thoughts by Edith, who asks him what kind of toothbrush he wants to get. Once they get back to the apartment, Takuya notices the girls are completely distracted, just eating snacks and watching TV. He asks about the actual festival work they are supposed to be doing. Edith instantly complains, whining that she has zero motivation to work right now. Instead, she suggests they all take a shower before getting back to business. She tells Takuya to go first, but he politely declines and says the girls can go ahead. Edith immediately takes his words the wrong way, teasingly assuming he wants to catch them in the shower. Takuya blushes like crazy, shouting that wasn't his intention at all. To avoid any more awkwardness, he just gives in and takes his shower first. Afterward, Edith invites Amain to shower together, pointing out that the bathroom has plenty of room for both of them. But before they head in, Edith gives Takuya a sharp warning, telling him don't even think about peeking. While the two girls are in the shower, Takuya tries to lock in and focus on the school project. But his mind keeps wandering, wondering what the two of them are doing in there. He catches himself feeling his heart race over the girls more than his beloved Kiramon, a thought that leaves him deeply disappointed in himself. Takuya desperately tries to balance his feelings, wanting to love Kiramon more than anything else in the world. In the middle of his inner panic, his mind is suddenly transported to another dimension. There, he's greeted by Earth God, Sama, and several other Kiramon characters. Thanks to this imaginary intervention, Takuya manages to restore his ultimate love for Kiramon and snaps back to reality. A few minutes later, the girls finally walk back into the living room. They're surprised to see that Takuya was actually hard at work the entire time they were gone. Edith decides to push his buttons a little, asking if they look pretty with their hair tied up. Takuya honestly says yes. As he takes a closer look at them, he notices the vibe between Edith and Amain feels a bit different than usual. Suddenly, Edith acts all shy, complaining that he's staring way too much. Amain turns bright red, embarrassing herself by saying she doesn't think she looks pretty without any makeup on. Takuya quickly praises them both, reassuring the girls that they look beautiful even without makeup. Later on, Edith notices it's getting super late. She suggests they should all head to bed. With a smirk on her face, she starts teasing Takuya, reminding him that he has a special roommate tonight. Takuya freezes in shock, realizing Edith wasn't joking about the sleeping arrangements earlier. Noticing that Takuya seems totally uncomfortable with the idea of sharing a room with him, Genichiro creeps up right behind him and calls him out. Takuya panics and tries to play it off, stammering that he was actually super excited to sleep in his room. Hearing that, Genichiro finds the phrasing even weirder. In the dead of night, Edith turns to Amain and whispers that she can't fall asleep. Amain sighs and admits she's wide awake too. They realize they're acting like they're on a school field trip. Meanwhile, Takuya is also wide awake, unable to catch a single wink of sleep. Suddenly, the girls sneak over and call out to him. Genichiro wakes up from their voices and storms over to scold them. But instead of just yelling, he grumbles that they aren't doing this sleepover right. He explains that back in his day, nobody slept, and if you did close your eyes, you lost the game. Hearing this, Edith agrees that Genichiro is completely right. She suggests a penalty. The first one to fall asleep loses. Amain accepts the challenge instantly. She suggests putting on a subtitled movie, and whoever drops first has to face the punishment. Edith gets a little intimidated by Amain's new rules, joking that she's trying to play on hard mode. She then invites Takuya to join the challenge, and he readily accepts. The three start the movie and kick off the game. Out of nowhere, Edith sparks up a conversation, asking Takuya which girl he actually likes. Right after, Amain asks the exact same thing, eager to know his crush. Feel pressured by both of them, Takuya stammers that he doesn't like anyone. Amain tries to get him to open up, asking which girl he'd choose if he absolutely had to get into a relationship right now. Takuya is completely shell-shocked. To dodge the question, he flips it back on them, asking who they would date, but with one condition. They can only choose an otaku. Hearing this, Edith mutters that their options are pretty much non-existent. Right after saying that, Edith decides to go back to focusing on the movie, telling everyone to just drop the subject and watch. Talk about the tables turning. During the movie, Amain notices Edith nodding off. She asks if she's really about to fall asleep. Edith suddenly snaps back to life, running on pure adrenaline. She screams that she won't sleep because she wants to celebrate her ultimate victory when she beats them. But just a few minutes later, she completely passes out. Seeing this, Takuya turns to Amain and says it's now a one-on-one showdown, making it clear he won't lose to her. As they keep talking, he asks why she hides the fact that she's an otaku. Amain explains that when she first got addicted to Kiramon, she had absolutely no one to talk to about it. All the girls around her only talked about hot guys. Kiramon is a niche anime that almost nobody knows about. Listening to her story, Takuya is surprised to see that a popular, beautiful girl goes through the exact same struggles. Wrapping up her thoughts, Amain mentions that she loves Edith so much precisely because Edith accepts her for exactly who she is. Takuya admits that he's always had a hard time making friends, noting he never knew how to talk to people, with the exception of her and Edith. With that said, the two decide to take a photo with the sleeping Edith to freeze that special moment forever. The next day, the three head back home. Suddenly, Edith asks about the cosplay. Right then, she realizes she accidentally left her outfit back at Genikairo's apartment. Hearing this, Edith says they should head back to the apartment to grab it. Takuya mentions he'll just head home on his own while the two girls go back. As soon as they arrive at the door, Edith and Amain notice that Genichiro is in the shower, meaning it'll take him a while to answer. Edith suggests they wait at a nearby bakery, since they both know just how long her brother takes to shower. After grabbing a bite to eat, the two head to a park to chat while they eat. Edith asks if anything happened while she was asleep. Amain replies that nothing major happened, explaining that she and Takuya just kept watching the movie and talked for a bit. Edith complains about the fact that there's only a single photo of her knocked out to remember that day. Hearing this, Amain teases her, saying Edith is just a little baby who passes out during the very first movie. As they keep talking, the two look back on the day they first met. The scene flashes back to when they bumped into each other at school. Since they didn't know each other yet, they just kept walking. However, Edith comments to a friend about how gorgeous Amain was as she walked past, wishing they'd end up in the same class. Her friend says the complete opposite, believing the odds of two beautiful girls ending up in the exact same classroom are basically zero. But as soon as they walk into the room, they discover that Amain did indeed end up in their class, leaving everyone shocked by the coincidence. Once the teacher arrives, he asks everyone to introduce themselves in alphabetical order. Amain stands up and introduces herself first, leaving all the students mesmerized by her beauty and even charmed by her name. Edith watches her closely, noting that she looks super cool, almost like an older sister figure. Suddenly, it's Edith's turn to introduce herself. Just like Amain, she becomes the center of attention the moment she speaks. Amain can't help but stare. She notes that Edith looks exactly like Mitch, a character from Kiramon. This instantly catches her attention, since she's a huge otaku for that anime. Realizing she's staring too much, Amain quickly looks away. Edith is completely confused by this, assuming Amain is glaring at her out of anger. As class goes on, Edith keeps stressing over what she could have done to make the girl mad, noting that Amain still seems highly suspicious of her. Suddenly, two boys approach Edith's desk to chat, but they quickly head over to Amain's desk to talk to her too. Amain shuts them down with a cold, dry response, which even scares Edith a bit. Seeing this, Mayu tells Edith to chill, saying she'll try talking to Amain herself. Mayu walks over and introduces herself, but just like before, Amain responds coldly, making it clear she isn't looking to make any friends. Edith decides to try talking to Amain too. This time, Amain responds by flashing a weird, awkward smirk. Amain immediately realizes she acted completely strange, noting she only did it because she just couldn't shake the feeling that Edith looked exactly like Mitch. The next day, Edith tries to get closer to Amain again, but Amain remains as cold as ever. Out of nowhere, Mayu invites them to go to karaoke after class. Amain rejects the offer instantly. Edith feels that classic icy vibe from Amain once more, but she sighs and notes that she's basically used to it by now. On the way to karaoke, Edith vents to her friends about her disappointment. She admits she really wanted Amain to join them, and assumes the girl just dislikes her for some unknown reason. Hearing this, one of her friends suggests that Amain is probably just extremely shy, and nothing more. Meanwhile, Amain heads home and chats with Sayu about her first day at school. She tries to bluff, claiming she made a bunch of friends at her new school. But Sayu immediately doubts her words. Amain points out that a cute Jairu was super nice to her, which should prove her point. However, Sayu quickly reminds her that a Jairu would never be kind to an otaku. The next day, Edith watches Amain again. She approaches her and invites her to hit up the game center with her friends. Seeing that no boys are joining this time, Amain finally accepts the invitation. As she turns back to the front of the class, Amain feels a surge of pride. She actually managed to make some friends, something she thought was impossible due to her cold personality. But while walking down the school hallways, Edith is approached by two boys who bring up the game center trip. Shocked that they found out, Edith asks how they knew. The boys explain they just overheard the girls talking in class and discovered the plans on their own. Just like last time, they ask to tag along for karaoke too. Edith accepts right away, claiming that the more people, the better. Once they get to the meetup spot, Edith is thrilled to see Amain mingling with the other students. But as evening falls and it's time to go home, Edith notices Amain walking away without saying goodbye to anyone. She runs up to her and says that thanks to Amain, she made new friends. She asks if they can hang out again soon, but Amain snaps. She makes it crystal clear that she only agreed to go because she thought it would be a girls-only trip. Since the boys tagged along, Amain calls the whole outing a complete disappointment. She scolds Edith for not giving her a heads up. She warns Edith that because of this lack of communication, she won't be hanging out with them ever again. Back home, Amain starts drowning in guilt over the harsh way she spoke to Edith. She admits she could have handled it way better. The sudden wave of anxiety actually gives her a stomachache. To cope, she decides to look up some Kiramon fan art before going to bed. The next morning, Edith skips class. Amain instantly assumes the girl stayed home because of how horribly she treated her the day before. Suddenly, some classmates walk up to Amain. They tell her that Edith was incredibly hyped to hang out with her, explaining she had planned the entire day from scratch just to make sure Amain had the absolute best time. Hearing this, Amain realizes that Edith actually cared about her feelings from the very beginning. She notes that she committed a massive injustice by snapping at her like that. During their chat, Mayu gets a text from Edith. Edith explains she had to head back home early to take care of her younger siblings. Meanwhile, at her apartment, Edith puts her little brothers to bed. She starts overthinking everything that happened with Amain yesterday. In the middle of her thoughts, the doorbell rings. She walks over to answer it and gets a massive shock. Standing right at her doorstep is Amain. Amain explains she got her address from Mayu. She hands Edith a gift to apologize for her behavior the day before. She explains that she really dislikes hanging out with guys, but admits she completely crossed the line with how she spoke to her. Edith cuts her off and says she was the one at fault. She admits she should have warned her about the extra people. But Amain keeps bowing, begging for forgiveness anyway. She thanks Edith for planning that entire trip just to make her happy. Hearing all of this, Edith bursts into tears of pure relief. She realizes Amain doesn't hate her like she feared. And even though Amain had said she'd never hang out again, she breaks her own rule. Amain smiles and asks to hang out with Edith again, making it clear she truly wants to be her friend. Edith reaches out her hand, and right there, their friendship is born. The next day, the teacher makes the students switch seats. Amain ends up sitting far away from Edith, which she sees as a total disaster. However, Amain decides to take the initiative and walks over to Edith's desk to chat. During their conversation, Edith realizes she forgot her eraser. She reaches back and borrows one from Takuya, who sits right behind her. Amain's eyes lock onto Takuya's eraser. She panics when she realizes it's a limited edition Kiramon eraser. She feels a desperate urge to talk to the boy about Kiramon, but she's terrified that the class will find out she's an otaku. That would completely ruin her reputation and social life at school. So, she decides to keep her mouth shut and maintain her usual icy expression to avoid getting bullied. But as they keep talking, Amain accidentally blabs a piece of niche Kiramon trivia out of nowhere. Amain notes that Edith didn't even catch what she just said, but Takuya definitely did. He stares back at her as if he just found his ultimate soulmate. Snapping back to the present day, Amain thanks Edith for inviting her out that day. She apologizes once again for the way she acted back then. She smiles, saying she finally understands why everyone loves Edith so much. Edith blushes and brushes off the praise. She admits she isn't that special, confessing that back then, she only let the boys tag along because she was too scared to say no and ruin the mood. Meaning she believes she acted completely selfishly that day. Hearing this, Amain decides to reveal her deepest secret. She confesses to being a hardcore Kiramon otaku. To her surprise, Edith smiles and says she already knew Amain was a massive fan of the anime. After all, everything she did made it bleedingly obvious. Shifting subjects, Amain admits she was never good at making friends, especially in middle school, where she spent all her time completely isolated. In the middle of their chat, Edith gets a text from Genichiro. He says they can head back to the apartment now since he's finally out of the shower. On the day of the school festival, while all the students are setting up their booths, Takuya walks through the hallways in his Earth God cosplay. Even though Takuya is proud of his high-quality outfit, he's worried he might attract too much attention from his classmates. But once he steps into his classroom, Takuya breathes a sigh of relief. Everyone is taking cosplay just as seriously as he is. Takuya starts checking out his friends' outfits. He notices that the girls went for more detailed, well-crafted looks, while the boys chose completely wild and crazy designs. This gives Takuya a boost of confidence that he won't stand out like a sore thumb. Right then, Edith walks up to Takuya in her maid costume, asking if he thinks it suits her. Takuya blushes and quickly agrees. Edith gets super excited about being paired with him for the morning shift of the festival. Amain notes how adorable Edith's cosplay is, and the two girls decide to take photos together. Looking at them, Takuya feels deeply fulfilled just to be in the same class as her. Meanwhile, a student dressed in a scuba suit reminds everyone that the main focus of the festival will be the food stalls. He warns them not to get distracted, since outsiders and family members will be visiting too. He shows absolute confidence that the two-day festival will be a massive success. But looking at him, the other students find his outfit bizarre and ask what his theme is supposed to be. The student proudly answers that his cosplay is summer vacation. Even though it's a bit conceptual, the students find his outfit hilarious. As the festival gets underway, Edith plays her role as a maid perfectly. Takuya realizes she is way more popular than he ever imagined. He also notices that every single cosplay booth is a huge hit, which makes him genuinely happy. Suddenly, two guys arrive at the classroom looking for Amain. A student helping run the booth explains that they can check the shift schedules, but the guys get completely outraged when they realize Edith and Amain aren't working at the same time. Seeing their anger, the scuba suit student confronts them. He brags that he would never put their top 2 stars on the exact same shift. However, he reveals there will be a cosplay swap for the afternoon shift, meaning the morning crew will wear entirely different outfits later, especially those two. The student mocks the boys, telling them they have no choice but to visit the classroom 4 different times if they want to see every single outfit. The guys are still furious, since they really wanted to see both girls together. During the classroom attraction, a student cosplaying as a baseball approaches Takuya. He mentions that their class is currently in first place because their booth is such a massive hit. Takuya is confused about this ranking system. The student explains that at the end of the festival, awards are given out for the best attraction and the best food stall. He adds that the most highly anticipated prize is the Festival King and Queen contest, where students vote for the most handsome boy and the most beautiful girl of the year. This year, the competition is brutal, since both Edith and Amain look absolutely stunning. The student hands Takuya a voting ballot. Overhearing the other students gossiping about the contest, Takuya is impressed by how well-informed everyone is. He falls into an inner conflict over who should win the queen title. He mutters to himself that he'd love to see both Amain and Edith win, since he could never be arrogant enough to choose between them. Suddenly, Edith walks past and catches him staring. She notes that Takuya looks incredibly deep in thought about something. Right then, a random guy approaches Edith and asks her to watch the fireworks with him after the festival. He mentions the legend of the fireworks, which instantly reminds Edith of a conversation she had with her classmates. One of her friends had told her that if a boy and a girl hold hands while watching the fireworks, they'll stay together for the rest of their lives. Edith politely rejects the guy's offer, telling him she already has plans with her friends. Another boy steps up to invite her, but she turns him down too, saying she's perfectly happy with her current plans. Her classmate, who originally brought up the legend, walks over to tease her about how incredibly popular she is. Edith grumbles about how everyone seems to have way too much free time on their hands. She asks her friend if the legend is actually that famous. The girl confirms that literally everyone is making plans because of it. With that settled, the two head back to their booth duties. However, Edith slides over to Takuya to ask if he has any plans to watch the fireworks with someone. Takuya makes it crystal clear that a guy like him would never have romance on his schedule. Hearing this, Edith looks visibly disappointed. She notes that he seemed a bit anxious earlier. So Takuya confesses he was overthinking the festival queen vote. He blushes and admits he's rooting for Edith. This makes her totally embarrassed that he voted for her, but she also wonders where Amain stands in his choice. Takuya then proudly reveals that he actually voted for both of them, asking if that's a bad thing. Edith bursts out laughing, teasing that this double voting is just so typical of him. Talk about a smooth operator. This kid definitely knows what he's doing. He might just end up winning them both over. As the shifts swap for the afternoon, Takuya notices a massive spike in the number of people waiting in line at their classroom. Suddenly, Amain appears wearing a vampire cosplay, and all the girls in the room go absolutely wild. Looking at her, Takuya realizes Amain is cosplaying the vampire emperor from Kiramon. He remembers how jealous Amain was of his earth god outfit, and notes that the only reason she stopped complaining back then was because she already had this killer backup plan in mind. However, looking closer, Takuya notices that the outfit isn't exactly accurate to the character. He wonders how Amain could mess that up, considering she's the #1 fan of the vampire emperor. This makes him think that maybe Amain is just wearing a generic vampire costume. However, Amain suddenly starts gesturing and acting exactly like the vampire emperor. Takuya is stunned by how perfectly she nails the impression. As for the slightly different design, Takuya figures she simply couldn't recreate the anime outfit completely on her own. Suddenly, a little girl recognizes Takuya's cosplay. He's shocked and thrilled to see that someone else actually likes Kiramon besides the two of them. Takuya takes the chance to ask who her favorite character is, and the little girl replies that it's Dragon Keep. Seeing a kid who genuinely loves Kiramon makes Takuya feel deeply fulfilled, and he's happier than ever that he chose this cosplay. To make things even better, the little girl adds that she thinks Earth God is super cool. Noticing this, Amain tries to slide over to get their attention. Takuya tells the little girl that there's actually another Kiramon character right here in the room. But when the girl looks around and zeroes in on Amain, she mutters that she doesn't see any Kiramon. Takuya instantly realizes that the vampire emperor isn't popular with kids at all. Amain gets visibly annoyed about not being recognized, but she sighs, admitting her costume isn't perfect anyway. She notes it's only natural that people wouldn't guess she's the vampire emperor. After the little girl waves goodbye, another classmate walks up and asks to take a photo with Amain. Amain dives right into character, completely charming the girl and leaving Takuya amazed by her acting skills. Seeing a huge crowd form to take pictures with Amain, Takuya starts overthinking. He really wants to ask for a photo with her too, but the massive crowd around her is the ultimate nightmare for a shy guy like him. But suddenly, Amain shatters his expectations by inviting him to take a picture with her instead. After Takuya happily accepts, Amain mentions she noticed he was trying to let everyone else go first. But since Orpheus and the Vampire Emperor are basically a legendary duo in the anime, she thought it would be a great idea to get a shot together. After a classmate snaps their picture, Takuya is called away by another student to help serve customers. The classmate who took the photo smirks and remarks how rare it is for Amain to take a photo with a guy. She points out how close they were standing, teasing that they seem tighter than usual. But Amain tries to play it cool, brushing it off by saying they're just two classmates wearing cosplay and taking a normal photo. Nothing weird about it. During the lunch break, most students head out to grab some food. Takuya realizes he has nothing to do, so he decides to wander around the festival alone. However, Edith and Amain send him a text, inviting him to meet up behind the school building. When he arrives, Takuya discovers the girls are plotting something. They pull out a mystery cosplay that they prepared specifically for him and demand he put it on. Smelling trouble from a mile away, Takuya immediately spins around to make a run for it. But the girls are too fast. They grab him and practically force him into the costume. While he changes, Amain and Edith stand outside, chatting about Takuya dressing up. Finally, Takuya steps out from behind the bushes wearing the exact outfit they requested. which happens to be a full-made costume. Seeing this, Amain bursts into a grinning fit and immediately starts snapping photos of the completely embarrassed boy, making him freeze up with tension. After all that nonsense, Takuya meets up with Amain during the next shift swap. He is absolutely stunned to see her dressed as a classic manga gyro. Suddenly, Takuya bumps into Seo and strikes up a conversation. Seo experiences a Freudian slip, blurting out that she's only there to make fun of Amain's face. She quickly corrects herself, whining that she really wanted to see Amain wearing a nurse outfit or a Chinese dress instead. After talking with Takuya, Seo heads over to chat with Amain, introducing herself as her younger sister. Hearing this, the nearby classmates immediately crowd around Seo, gushing about how adorable she is. One of the students remarks that even though they aren't blood-related, Seo shares the exact same cool and mature vibe as her older sister. Realizing that this is how everyone views Amain at school, Seo is left a bit deep in thought. Amain gets a sudden wave of butterflies in her stomach. She desperately begs the girl not to say anything that could ruin her reputation. Luckily, Seo leaves Amain's cool girl status completely intact. She spends the rest of her time chatting with Takuya until Amain returns to take her home. But right before leaving, Seo reminds Takuya about the legend of the fireworks at the end of the festival. She smirks and suggests he should go watch them with Amain. Hearing this, a blushing Amain quickly grabs Seo and drags her away. Meanwhile, Edith is walking through the school hallways when she suddenly spots a poster explaining the fireworks legend. Both Amain and Edith end up spaced out, overthinking the whole myth. A bit later, the festival grounds get even more crowded. Edith's younger brothers arrive at the scene, bursting with energy. At the same time, Amain waves goodbye to Seo as she heads home. Amain quickly gets lost in thought about the fireworks show scheduled for later that evening. She flashes back to Seo telling her and Takuya to finally take the first step tonight. Suddenly, Edith's brothers call out to Amain. She's surprised to see they actually made it to the festival. Hearing her mention Seo, Kakeru and Hibiki deduce that the girl was just here, which gets them super excited. However, Amain explains that Seo just left for home, so they won't be able to catch her today. Amain asks them point-blank if they were actually here just to see Seo. The two boys turn slightly red, making up a random excuse that they only came to tease Edith. They quickly beg Amain to guide them to their classroom booth. Over at the booth, Edith is busy handling the crowd of customers waiting at the door. Her little brothers suddenly pop up, leaving her completely shocked and confused. Edith asks what on earth they are doing there. The two explain that their older brother gave them some pocket change, just so they could take a photo of her at the festival. However, the other classmates running the booth spot the boys. They immediately swarm the brothers, showering them with compliments and questions. This attention makes the boys super uncomfortable. Watching the scene unfold, Amain realizes that the exact same thing is happening to them. Happened to Seo. Since Edith already knew this would happen, she had explicitly asked them beforehand to stay home. But of course, the boys didn't listen. Edith calls the two over and tells them to hide behind her, promising to answer the crowd's questions on their behalf. She then asks Amain to look after them for a bit during the festival. Meanwhile, Takuya is busy stacking some event boxes when he suddenly spots Amain and Edith's brothers. Takuya walks over to greet them. Seeing that he's free, Amain begs Takuya for help in watching the boys, explaining that she needs to run and switch into her next cosplay. Takuya notices the completely dead look in the boys' eyes. Amain explains that they just got cornered by the crowd the exact same way Seo did. To cheer them up, Amain invites the two to a sleepover at her house. Even though it's a great offer, the two boys instantly decline. Amain plays her ultimate trump card. She smirks and mentions that Seo will also be at the sleepover. Hearing this, the boys instantly light up and accept the invitation with huge smiles on their faces. Takuya is highly impressed by Amain's master plan to restore their energy. Before running off to change her outfit, Amain takes the chance to invite Takuya to the sleepover too. While she's away, Takuya stays with the brothers, killing time by playing video games. Later on, the students receive orders to pack up and take off their cosplays. Takuya heads to the booth and asks Edith if he can escort her brothers to the main gate while everyone is changing. Edith agrees, as long as it doesn't trouble him. Takuya reassures her that he has plenty of time. But before Takuya can lead the brothers away, Edith stops him. She shyly asks to take a quick photo with him before she heads out to change. They snap the photo, leaving Takuya completely flustered. Edith thanks him warmly for looking after her little brothers. Looking at the digital screen, Takuya notices something deeply familiar about the picture. It looks exactly like the very first photo they ever took together back when they first started talking. It makes him reflect on how that single photo was the beginning of everything. But he quickly shakes it off, thinking it probably doesn't mean much to Edith. Noticing his look, a blushing Edith asks him if he thinks the fireworks after the festival will be cool. Takuya smiles and says yes. After waving goodbye to Edith's brothers and walking up the stairs, Takuya notices several students rushing to catch a live show. Arriving at the empty classroom, Takuya reflects on how he's finally managing to fit in and make real friends. Suddenly, Edith and Amain pop out from behind a curtain in the room. Takuya is startled and asks what on earth they are doing there. Edith explains that it would be totally wrong to leave Takuya behind after he spent all day watching her brothers. She reveals that she and Amain came back to the room specifically to invite him to watch the gym concert together. Takuya reminds them that he's terrible with crowded, loud events. Edith smiles and suggests an alternative, throwing a private party for just the three of them right there in the empty classroom. Man, I'm telling you, this anime is definitely going to end in a harem route, and you guys just aren't listening to me. Takuya worries that he's holding them back from seeing the actual concert in the gym. But Edith reassures him, saying she'll be perfectly happy, just by hanging out with her friends. During the concert, Takuya and the girls munch on potato chips and drink soda while chatting. Later on, near the gate, the two girls check their phones and notice their classmates have sent them a ton of texts. Since they missed the messages earlier, they decide to drop by the gym to meet up with them. Takuya tells them he'll just head home. Turning around, he catches a glimpse of their classmates crowding around the girls, eager to take a group photo as a keepsake from day one. Takuya notes he was completely right about people waiting for them at the gym, and heads back home. On the second day of the festival, the girls are checking out the classroom map. They note that the school clubs and committees will be running the attractions today. Cheyenne asks which booth they want to visit first. Edith replies that she wants to check out the kendo club, so they head over there. Feeling hyped for the day ahead, Edith invites her friends to make the absolute most of it. At the kendo club booth, Edith scores 12 points on a whack-a-mole game, winning a small prize, 3 cans of fish. After that, they visit the tea ceremony club. But Amain takes a sip of the tea and finds it incredibly bitter. Meanwhile, Takuya is deep in thought about the Festival King and Queen contest. Suddenly, 2 classmates walk up to chat with him. The brown-haired student bets that either Edith or Amain will win the crown. The guy with his hair tied back remarks that even though they are all in the same class, they basically live in completely different worlds. The brown-haired kid asks if Takuya is actually close with them. Takuya sighs, muttering that he really does live in a different world, just like they said. Right then, the guy with his hair tied back gets a notification that the trivia tournament is about to start. The boys wave goodbye to Takuya, but their conversation leaves him feeling pretty down. Elsewhere, Edith notices Mayu calling out to her. Walking over, Mayu points out that there are way more couples around today compared to the first day of the festival. Edith notices it too. Mayu teases that it must be the magic of the school festival, putting everyone in a romantic mood. But Edith scoffs, arguing that couples don't just magically form out of nowhere based on a vibe. Mayu winks and asks if Edith's type is a straight-laced, reliable guy. Edith blushes and replies that being reliable is important, but there's more to it. She explains that her ideal guy has to be polite, sincere, thoughtful, and kind to children, and also completely dedicated to the things he loves. As she speaks, Edith instantly flashes back to Takuya. Mayu catches the dreamy look on her face and asks if someone just crossed her mind. Edith panics and almost lets his name slip, but quickly covers it up, shouting that she was just thinking about Omurus. Suddenly, Cheyenne and Amain sneak up behind Edith, scaring her half to death. To escape the awkward situation, Edith begs Mayu to head out to the courtyard with her. But Amain speaks up, saying she and Cheyenne are super thirsty and want to buy a drink first. Edith waves goodbye and tells Mayu to walk with her. Strolling through the festival, Amain and Cheyenne notice an archery club booth. Cheyenne turns to Amain and asks if she wants to give it a shot. But after Amain refuses because she thinks there are no good prizes, she suddenly notices that one of the rewards is a limited edition Kiramon plush. That instantly changes her mind. Amain preps her bow, locking her eyes onto the Kiramon prize. Meanwhile, Cheyenne notices a bottle of nail oil sitting right next to the plush. She assumes that's the item Amain is aiming for. But Amain fires, hits the Kiramon plush, and bursts into a victory celebration. This leaves Cheyenne completely baffled, since she was dead sure Amain was aiming for the nail oil. After grabbing her prize, Amain leaves the booth. On her way back, she starts bragging to herself about her massive win, thinking about how she can rub it right into Takuya's face. But as she looks around, she notices a guy trying to drag Edith away to watch the fireworks with him, hoping to fulfill the festival's romantic legend. Edith rejects the guy, telling him she's already going with a friend. Right after, another guy approaches Amain with the exact same offer, but she shuts him down just like Edith did. Later, in the school restroom, Amain vents to Edith about how everyone's romantic hype is slowly draining her energy. She asks Edith what her actual plans are for the fireworks show. Edith doesn't give a straight answer. Instead, she asks who Amain would choose to watch the fireworks with if she had the choice. Edith lets it slip that she wouldn't mind going with Takuya if he asked her. Hearing this, Amain replies on autopilot, blurting out that she would also go with Takuya if he chose her. Realizing they're both going to get spammed with annoying invitations from random guys all evening, Amain suggests a backup plan. She says they should just stick together during the fireworks to ward off any other dudes. They end up hugging right then and there. Honestly, I'm pretty sure if they just brought Takuya along, all their problems would be solved right now. Suddenly, Cheyenne walks into the restroom and catches the two of them standing super close in a pretty suspicious way. Cheyenne gets totally flustered, blushing and stammering that she didn't see a thing. Meanwhile, Takuya decides to stay in the library to study. After all, he didn't manage to make plans to watch the fireworks with anyone, and going alone sounds completely depressing. Suddenly, he overhears two girls gossiping about a new school legend. They claim that the festival king and queen always end up dating. The girls leave the room after their chat, leaving Takuya deep in thought. He reflects on their words and comes to the bitter conclusion that there are plenty of handsome guys who would look way better standing next to Edith and Amain than him. But right after thinking that, Takuya feels a sharp pang in his chest. He questions what this feeling is. He starts drowning in guilt, feeling incredibly selfish for being bothered by the thought of other guys ending up with the girls. He tells himself that the important thing is for them to be happy, whether it's with him or someone else. But even though he tries to think rationally, Takuya just can't ignore the crushing anxiety eating him alive at the mere thought of losing them. Look, my brother, you've got to be greedy in this life. You've got to want more than your hands can even hold. Don't leave anything behind for the other guys. You've got to take it all for yourself. And that's just how it is. I am dead sure that if Takuya just makes his move, both of them are down for it. But hey, that's just my opinion. So, smash that like button if you want to see the final part, and I will definitely catch you guys there. I'm out.